Picture this. You are 5'4", you weigh maybe 130 pounds soaking wet, you haven't eaten in 3 days, and standing in front of you, close enough that you can smell its breath, is a woolly mammoth the size of a school bus, covered in fur, with tusks longer than your entire body. Your weapon? A stick with a sharp rock tied to the end. Good luck. Here's the thing, though. Not only did early humans hunt mammoths, they did it successfully, repeatedly, for tens of thousands of years. And somehow these small, slow, fangless, clawless, completely unimpressive animals with no natural armor and an embarrassing lack of physical gifts became the most dangerous predators the mammoth ever faced. So how did they do it? Spoiler, it had almost nothing to do with spears. First, let's talk about how bad humans are at fighting. Let's be honest about what early humans were working with. No claws, no venom, no thick hide, running speed that would get them lapped by a golden retriever. A mammoth, on the other hand, stood up to 13 feet tall, weighed up to 14,000 pounds, and had tusks that could flip a car. One kick from an adult mammoth could end a human instantly. If early humans tried to fight a mammoth the way a lion fights a wildebeest, running up, biting the neck, overpowering it with brute strength, they would have died every single time, not even close. So they didn't do that. Instead, early humans did something that no other predator on the planet was doing at the time. They used the one thing evolution accidentally gave them that made up for literally every physical weakness they had. They thought about it first. The real weapon: brains, time, and patience. Cognitive scientists who study prehistoric hunting call it persistence hunting combined with strategic planning. But the simpler way to put it is this: early humans were the first predators on Earth who could imagine a future that hadn't happened yet.
A wolf chases what it can see. A crocodile ambushes what comes close. But a group of early humans could look at a mammoth, look at the landscape, and think, if we drive it toward that cliff over there, and if 3 of us circle around the left side while 2 others make noise from the right, and if we start now while the wind is blowing this direction, we eat tonight. That ability to plan across time and space, to coordinate with other humans through language, to anticipate how another animal would react, that was the weapon. Everything else, the spears, the fire, the traps, was just the tool they built once they'd already solved the problem in their heads. Method 1. The cliff that did all the work. One of the earliest and most effective mammoth hunting strategies was also the simplest: make the mammoth fall off something. Archaeological sites across North America and Europe show evidence of what researchers call jump kills, locations where mammoth bones pile up at the base of cliffs or steep ravines in numbers that are too concentrated to be accidental. At one site in Colorado, known as Lamb Spring, the bones of dozens of mammoths were found stacked in a pattern that strongly suggests repeated organized drives over many years. The strategy worked like this. A group of hunters, sometimes as few as 6 or 8 people, would fan out around a mammoth herd and begin making noise, shouting, banging rocks together, waving fire. Mammoths, despite their size, are prey to panic in the same way most herd animals are. When one starts running, the others follow. The hunters didn't need to be faster than the mammoth, they just needed to be louder and to know the terrain better than the mammoth did. Drive it toward the edge. Let gravity finish the job. A mammoth that has fallen 20 feet onto rocks is no longer a 13-foot predator problem. It's dinner for a week.
Method 2. Make it tired before you even start. Early humans also practiced a form of hunting that sounds almost too cruel to be real, but was devastatingly effective. They simply followed a mammoth until it collapsed. This is called persistence hunting, and humans are uniquely suited for it in a way that almost no other animal is. Most large animals, including mammoths, cool their bodies by panting, which requires them to slow down or stop. Humans cool themselves by sweating while moving, which means we can maintain a moderate jogging pace for hours without overheating. A mammoth being chased by a group of hunters couldn't just outrun them and keep going. Over the course of several hours in warm weather, the mammoth would overheat long before the humans gave up. Researchers believe prehistoric hunters would relay chase large animals, with one group pushing hard while another resting, then switching, keeping constant pressure on the animal with no real exertion from any individual. By the time the hunters caught up for the final time, the mammoth wasn't fighting at full strength. It was exhausted, overheated, possibly already partially immobilized. The spear at the end wasn't the hard part. The hard part was the 8 hours before it. Method 3. The ground itself was the trap. In regions near lakes and wetlands, early humans discovered something extremely useful. Mammoths were dangerously bad at walking in mud. A mammoth's enormous weight spread across 4 relatively narrow legs made boggy ground a death trap. There are sites in Europe where mammoth remains have been found in ancient lake beds and wetland areas in positions that suggest the animals became mired and couldn't extract themselves. And around those bones, archaeologists have found stone tools. Early humans didn't stumble on these stuck mammoths by accident. They herded them there on purpose. Using knowledge of local geography passed down across generations, knowledge of which wetlands were deep, which dried up seasonally, which routes mammoths naturally used to reach water, hunting groups could direct a fleeing mammoth straight into terrain that turned its greatest physical advantage into its biggest liability. All that weight became an anchor. A mired mammoth is still an incredibly dangerous animal, but it's a dangerous animal that can't move.
And early humans were patient people. The underrated ingredient? Each other. Every single method described above has one thing in common that gets overlooked in the popular image of the lone spear-throwing caveman. None of it worked alone. Persistence hunting requires relay teams. Cliff drives require people spread across a wide area in coordinated positions. Wetland herding requires someone who has scouted the terrain in advance, someone to flank, someone to push from behind, someone to wait at the target point. Early humans were not the biggest animals on the Pleistocene landscape. They were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most physically imposing. What they were, and what no other predator could match, was cooperative at a scale and complexity that was genuinely unprecedented in the history of life on Earth. The mammoth was killed by the group, by the planning session the night before, by the person who remembered where the bog was, by the runner who circled around the left flank, by the one who waited. The spear was the last 2 seconds of a process that started hours, sometimes days earlier. The uncomfortable ending. Here's where the story takes a turn that's a little harder to laugh about. Early humans were too good at this. The woolly mammoth went extinct approximately 4,000 years ago. The timing of that extinction tracks almost perfectly with the spread of human hunters across new continents. In North America, where mammoths had no prior experience with human hunters, the animals had no learned fear of the 2-legged creatures making noise on the horizon. The mammoths of Eurasia had thousands of years to develop some wariness. The mammoths of North America had essentially none. They walked straight into traps they had no reason to recognize as traps. Climate change certainly played a role, but the species that had survived multiple ice ages, that had lived through dramatic climate swings for hundreds of thousands of years, that species disappeared within a few thousand years of humans showing up with better coordination and better plans. The tiny humans didn't just figure out how to hunt mammoths, they figured it out so well that there are no mammoths left to hunt. Next time you're stuck in traffic, annoyed at how slowly everything moves, just remember, the reason you're here at all is because some very small, very persistent, very clever ancestors of yours once looked at the largest land animal on Earth and thought, yeah, we can take that. And they were right.